President Trump is threatening to take action after a violent weekend in Portland, Oregon. One man died following clashes between pro-Trump demonstrators and protesters calling for an end to racial injustice. The victim is believed to be linked to a right-wing group. The president is now blaming Portland's Democratic mayor for the violence. He says if the city isn't cleaned up, quote, "we will go in and do it for them." President Trump is scheduled to visit another site of recent protests tomorrow, Kenosha, Wisconsin. That's where police shot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times just over a week ago. Wisconsin's governor has urged the president to reconsider his visit. Mr. Trump's call for, quote, law and order has been a central campaign theme. Today, he accused Joe Biden of being weak on crime. In Pennsylvania earlier, Biden pushed back on the president's attacks against him and posed the question, are you safe in Donald Trump's America?
Since Donald Trump and Mike Pence can't run on the record that has seen more American deaths to a virus, this virus, than the nation suffered in every war since Korea combined. Since they can't run on their economy, that has seen more people lose their jobs than any time since the Great Depression. Since they can't run on the simple proposition of sending our children safely back to school. Since they have no agenda or vision for a second term. Trump and Pence are running on this, and I find it fascinating. Quote, you won't be safe in Joe Biden's America. And what's their proof? The violence we're seeing in Donald Trump's America.
For more, let's bring in Nikole, Killion, and Eugene Scott. Nikole is a CBS News correspondent based in Washington, D.C., and Eugene is a political reporter for The Washington Post. Welcome to you both. Nikole, let me start with you. We know that President Trump is expected to travel to Kenosha, Wisconsin tomorrow. What are his plans for when he's there?
Well, according to the White House at this point, the president is expected to meet with law enforcement and business owners and also survey some of the damage on the ground following some of the protest and rioting that has taken place in that city. What is unclear is whether or not he will meet with the family of Jacob Blake. We do know that the White House has made a number of attempts to reach out to the family. So it says they've also tried to reach out to people around the family. But as of now, at least according to the family's attorney, they have not heard directly from the White House, so we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, too, this comes amid the backdrop of a number of leaders within Wisconsin, from the governor on down, who are actually discouraging the president from visiting. They argue they don't feel that this will really help matters or help the situation. The White House saying late today that the president simply wants to be there to help people who are hurting.
And Eugene, just on that point, so Wisconsin's governor did ask President Trump to reconsider. What specifically are the governor's concerns? Eugene, are you with us?
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that question was for me. No. Well, the governor's concerns the governor's concerns are that Trump will use language that will increasingly be divisive and could stir up just conflict between Trump supporters and Trump critics and make things far more violent than they have been. This is actually one of the points that Joe Biden mentioned in his speech today, the idea that President Trump actually has not done a good job of calming things down, but instead has actually inflamed the discourse and the situation as a whole by his rhetoric and his social media use.
And Eugene, the president has been pushing a law and order message since his 2016 campaign. After his renomination speech last week, you wrote that the Trump campaign is trying to appeal to voters on the margins. Why does the Trump team still feel like that is an effective message?
Well, the Trump campaign seems to believe that this race is going to be tight based on what we see in the polls. And he understands that by reaching out to voters who perhaps aren't sure they want to consider him, but are actually still entertaining backing him, he actually has a better shot at kind of bringing those people into the fold than changing the minds of people who are already convinced that 4 more years of him would be more problematic than helpful for this country. The president also has been focused primarily on these voters Trump triers being people who gave Trump a chance and wanted to try him out and no longer are supporting him. And also some of the Republicans who are on board with Biden, which we saw the Democratic nominee highlight significantly during the DNC convention. These are approaches that the campaign and the president believes could ultimately be effective and work in his favor in the long run.
At the same time, Nikole, a new ABC News and Ipsos poll found a majority of Americans disapprove of the president's handling of the pandemic and that his favorability after last week's convention remains pretty much the same. Nikole, what are the campaign's plans in the next few weeks to boost those numbers?
Yeah, one, I think it's notable, too. I mean, as far as a convention bounce, I don't know that either candidate really got much of a bounce out of the conventions as far as President Trump and his numbers are concerned. We do know from his campaign that they intend to step up their advertising in a number of states. They announced today they'll be making some new investments, for instance, in Minnesota. They also plan to put ads in places like Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. One of the president's top campaign advisors saying they plan to invest some $200 million worth of ads between now or really between Labor Day and Election Day. And that rivals the Biden campaign, which a couple of weeks ago announced they would invest about, I believe it was $280 million through Election Day in ad buys, the largest ever of a presidential candidate. So look, they are trying to step up their game there. We do know that the president also plans to step up his campaign travel as well, that he will be going, for instance, not just to Wisconsin tomorrow, but also to North Carolina in an official capacity later this week, but also intends to hold a rally in Pennsylvania later this week as well. We know the vice president will also be in Pennsylvania. So certainly they do intend to stay out on the trail. And of course, the former vice president also stepping up his campaign travel as well by going to Pennsylvania today. His campaign also saying that he plans to get back out on the road after Labor Day.
Yeah, you know, Eugene, I want to ask about that because you have such a set of circumstances now, unlike anything we have seen before. And we've seen President Trump, not just the president, and in fact, but the vice president as well, going to various battleground states, going to places where they feel the presence of someone on the ground will really go a long way to boost the turnout of Trump supporters there. For the Biden campaign, Eugene, how much of a challenge is it trying to navigate matching some of this travel and being out there in the age of the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, it's a real challenge because the Democratic candidate is primarily focusing on being healthy and trying to communicate how important it is for people to stay indoors as much as possible to prevent the spread of coronavirus. And so that presents a challenge with him actually going out to campaign and trying to get these individuals to come and see him. It also presents a bit of a challenge because we're talking about resources here. And as much as the Biden campaign has really done well in terms of fundraising compared to the Trump campaign, that he has not done as well consistently. And so you're dealing with limited resources in terms of trying to connect with voters with the hope that they will ultimately lead to support.
Yeah, we will see how the campaign strategy here might evolve in these few weeks ahead. So finally, Nikole, over the weekend, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence canceled in-person election security briefings for congressional intelligence committees. Why is that significant, and do we know what led to that decision?
Well, it's significant for a number of reasons. I mean, at this point, we're some 60-plus days away from the election. Given what happened in 2016 as far as election interference from Russia, there remains high concerns, and even the intelligence community has warned that places like Russia, China, Iran are actively working to interfere in our elections. But more specifically, you know, some of these changes came about according to the Director of National Intelligence because he was concerned that that some of the information that members of Congress were being briefed on was being leaked to the media. And the president also said as much over the weekend that they were concerned that some of this information was getting out to the press. And now you have Democrats, particularly those like House Intelligence Chairman Adam Schiff, who said, look, I'm not leaking, I haven't leaked, but also talking about the importance of having these briefings in person, because obviously they will continue just in a written phase. But for instance, members can't ask questions. And so one thing that Congressman Schiff said over the weekend is that House Democrats may employ some tools to try to compel these intelligence officials to still provide something in person, whether that is potentially issuing a subpoena for them to testify. Schiff said that that is a decision that will be up to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, but certainly Democrats aren't taking this sitting down. They are concerned that this is something that is being politicized, although certainly Director Ratcliffe is arguing the same as well, that some of this information that's being provided to Congress is being politicized. But as of now, these briefings will now just happen in writing only.
All right, we'll continue to watch it. Nikole, Killion, and Eugene Scott, great to have you both. Thank you very much.